So we have a lot of different attendees on today's live session, and we actually have a really good mix of retailers, which is always fun. We have sporting goods merchants, we've got apparel and footwear, we have furniture stores and resort stores, military supply and pets. So regardless of what market you sit, most everybody here is using Stratus Enterprise. And so we're going to go over a new tool, to you probably a new tool. It's called Stratus Analytics. And we're not just going to give a demo and show Stratus Analytics. We're actually going to talk about reporting. We're going to talk at length about some of the common challenges retailers have and some of the reasons why a tool like this is really important. So before we jump in, I am going to go over some quick housekeeping. We are recording this session, and every attendee will get the recording shortly after the live presentation. And we encourage questions. I know you all can't speak, but you can ask questions on the question pane, and I encourage you to do so. We will save time at the end to go over all the questions and make sure we get everything answered. So with that, we will jump in. We'll do some quick introductions first. Ray, start us off.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Ray Wiener. I'm a senior sales executive here at Celerant. I've been working with retailers for over 20 years to help them kind of achieve their goals. And I'm really excited to share with everyone kind of a different path to meet your goals and to find further success in your data.
And Laura?
Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Sinkman from Finland, actually. So saving you the trouble of trying to figure out where this accent is coming from. So it's Finland. So I also have more than 15 years of experience in various roles in business life, and all across the way. It doesn't matter whether it's been analyzing or steering or managing the business, or even leading the teams and helping, enabling them to kind of reach their best potential. Data has always been very significant part of it. So I'm a true fan of data-based decision making and really leveraging it. So very excited to have our discussions today.
Awesome, thank you both. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michelle Salerno. I'm the Chief Growth Officer here at Celerant. And I host webinars every month, educational webinars just like this. And so a lot of you on today's call join us every month. And for those of you who don't, clearly this topic is exciting for you. And I encourage you to come back every month and listen and learn. And like I always say, you spend 45 minutes or an hour with us. If you walk away with one or two little nuggets and it can really help your business, it's worth your time. So with that, we will jump in. Not everybody on today's call is a retailer using Celerant software. So just a quick slide to introduce who we are for those of you who don't know. We're an all-in-one retail software provider. So your brick and mortar store or stores, your e-commerce, your mobile shopping app, your digital marketing, email marketing, all of that can be done in one system. And we really help our retailers with every aspect and all channels of their retail business. We've got 8 physical office locations. We've got about 245 team members all over the world and here in the States as well. 3,000 retailers using our platform across so many different markets. I mentioned some already, and many of you are here today. So for today's session, we are focusing on reporting. And we're going to talk through a lot of different topics here. I put just a quick agenda just so you know what to expect. Laura's going to kick us off. We're going to talk about some common challenges. When I talk to retailers, we were at our client conference just a month ago in Florida, and one of the biggest areas where retailers do tend to struggle is really knowing what reports to create, how to create them quickly, and then most importantly, how to actually act on those reports. And that really is at the heart what we want to focus on today. A lot of our retailers here are using some more of our legacy platforms like data warehousing or data mining is what we offered many years ago. So we're going to really dive into the differences between traditional platforms versus the newer cloud-based platforms like Stratus Analytics. We don't want today to be a sales pitch trying to just sell Stratus Analytics. We genuinely want to teach you how your reporting could be more effective, more efficient, and how you can just really turn data into actionable insights. So to help us do that, we're going to walk through some use cases. Ray is going to take this part, talk us through a couple of different use cases, and then actually jump into the system and show you a demo so you can understand what this system is really capable of. So Laura, kick us off. Let's first focus on some challenges. I'm sure a lot of the things you go through, people on our call are going to really, resonate with.
Well, yes. So if we take the first point, the outdated reports, and that is basically tied into the fact that business as life in general is really moving fast today. So it's not enough that you can take a look in the back mirror and kind of see what happened and what turned out. You need to be able to kind of realize the trends as they are happening. And you need to be, like you, Michelle, just said, that you need to be able to act on it. So that is the very, very critical part of it. So before it's too late, you actually need to really be on top of it and act on it. And then you see how it turns out. And next time you know how to do better, or whether you actually exceeded your expectations. And comparing to these kind of little bit old-fashioned traditional data mining, data warehousing type of traditional BI tools, the big difference is really that you have the real-time data and it's very dynamic, same as your business. So let's say that you see that you have a beautiful weather coming up next week. So you want to think about that, what can I do with it? And you can go in and just take a look at your weather and sales mapping reports and see what has been sold before during that kind of periods. And then you really act on it. You take it. Maybe it's the men's shorts, maybe it's the children's clothing. You take it into the hotspot of your store and you kind of make the people come in and buy what they usually need at that time. But you don't stop it there. Then you can also take a look at what items are usually sold mostly together with those kind of top sellers. And you can place those around the items and kind of create a journey for the customer to go through your store, purchase everything they need. So things like that, when you have a dynamic report that you can really kind of drill down and really investigate and get the insights, and you can act on it right away, that's a big difference. And also this lack of visibility happens if it's very static and you're not able to use it dynamically. What typically happens is that people tend to start having different Excel sheets here and there, so you no longer have this one truth. One is talking about other numbers, and one is kind of thinking that they are talking about the same numbers, but it's different. So when you have a cloud-based, real-time, and basically the same system for everyone, for everyone's needs, no matter what kind of position, role, or daily needs you have, you all share the same real-time data. It helps you really to keep it cohesive. And then you can also kind of decide yourself, what do you want to see? If you're responsible for certain stores or regions, you can define that yourself. So it really gives you the opportunity to make it your own. And then the last part, very important, because we all know how the tech guys, they have like the biggest backlog ever, everywhere. Like everyone is always expecting something from them. So the cool part of this Stratus Analytics is that you're actually able to create your own reports within just minutes. Ray will show you, it's so easy. And then you're able to even create your own type of view on it. So it's not only a report, you can really decide yourself what you're looking at, the way you're looking at it. So typically, if you have the need and you have the IT guy who finally maybe finds the time to do that for you, then that specific need and situation is often already over. So you're already focusing on something else.
Yeah, and I want to just double down on the lack of visibility. I mean, all three areas, but the lack of visibility. We host also every month or every other month, we do merchandise planning, open to buy webinars just like this with a couple of our partners. So we talk about reports, we talk about data, and the one area that we have to remind everyone all throughout the process is to communicate and to share and not operate in silos, because when your buyers and all your different teams are just operating so independent of each other, that is, it just really makes your business run so much less smoothly. So when you have visibility and you can see all of the different channels and have everybody in sync, and that's exactly what Ray's going to show when we get to the demo.
That's a very good point. Yes.
All right. So I love asking poll questions on these sessions. I like to first wake everybody up, make sure everybody's paying attention. But more importantly than that, just to really, so we understand, the three of us, you know, who's on the call, because we have our plan of what we want to talk about, but based on how you all answer these questions will really help guide us with how we pivot and how we talk about the stuff we want to get into. So let me flip this question up. The question is, how do you currently use data to make business decisions? So give me 1 second here. I'm going to launch this poll question. Okay, you guys should see that, right? Okay, so go ahead and select which answer is most applicable to you and your business. So how do you currently use data to make business decisions? I rely mostly on gut instinct. I export data into Excel spreadsheets. I use standard reporting within my retail software. So for those of you who are Celerant clients, most all of you are, this is where you may sit if you're not using an additional tool like what we're going to look at today. You're just using the reports that are within our system. Or D, I use traditional business analytics currently. So let's see here. We have 67% have voted. So I'm going to leave it up for a few more seconds because I really want to get 100%. There we go, 75%. Go ahead and select. Oh, interesting. Okay. We'll leave it up for 3 more seconds. We're at 80%. And this is pretty much what I thought we were going to get here. Great. All right, 86%, close enough. I'm going to close it and let me share. All right, do you guys see that? All right, so what do we got here? 27% are exporting data into Excel spreadsheets, and 73% use standard reporting within my retail software. So usually when we ask these questions, we get a mix of all of the above. In this case, we only got 2, which is really interesting, and really what I expected coming into this session, and that's helpful for us because either you're running reports using Excel, or you're doing that and probably a combination of the standard reporting within our software. And so, you know, in terms of our software here at Celerant, it's either the canned reports that are within our system, maybe you're using the custom report designer, but it doesn't look like anybody on today's call is actually using a system like Stratus Analytics. So awesome stuff. All right, I'm going to hide that and let's get back to the session. All right. Do you guys see my screen again, or is it still stuck?
We see it.
You see it.
Still on the poll.
It is still on the poll, right? Odd.
Yes, it's on the poll.
I don't know why it's stuck there. All right, give me 1 second. How about now? We're good, right?
Now it's good. Yes.
Great. It's always something. All right. So with that information, that's actually exactly what we were expecting today's call to be. So Laura, walk us through this. This is specifically talking about cloud-based versus traditional. So for those of you, I know at our client conference, we had a whole bunch of our retailers who've been with us for 10, 15, 20 years using data mining, which is what we've offered forever. And quite a few of them have already converted since the conference over to Stratus Analytics. So that's kind of what we're talking about here, right? A traditional data warehouse versus Stratus Analytics. So walk us through this, Laura.
The fantastic part of Stratus Analytics is actually that it is completely tailored and designed for retail and e-commerce business. So everything has been done keeping in mind of the needs and the developments and all of the aspects that you have in the retail business and e-commerce. So there is no need to kind of build anything when you take it into use. The deployment is so fast, it's super fast. And once you have it connected, you actually have 50 plus reports out of the box. You have more than 300 metrics and KPIs specifically designed for retail business out of the box. So you're able to start using it from day one. If fully and efficiently, all the kind of, I would say that best practices are already in there because it's really being designed based on decades of experience in that specific vertical of business. So that is one of the biggest topic, because that also takes you there that you don't need to have technical knowledge or kind of a skill set, not really a technical person within the company itself. It's very easy to use by anyone. It's designed that way. And that's why it's also very visual, as you will see, and very intuitive. So I would say that this is the biggest advantage. Instead of taking typically weeks, if not even months, just to start gathering the business requirements, you are already kind of at the end of the process where which usually takes like maybe 1 year to get something built up. And then you start actually creating the metrics and creating the reports. And that also takes technical skills. So none of that is needed here. It's fully out of box from day one.
Yeah, and kind of double down on that. I mean, Ray, you see it probably even more than I, just in your role, but we have retailers who it could take 3 months or 6 months just to sort of get everything prepared and connected and set up. And it literally is that easy with a cloud-based system. You're up in a couple of hours. It may take a day depending on, how long the scheduling, but as soon as you're connected, you're just instantly connected with all that data.
Michelle, I would agree. I'd add one more thing that I think is, Laura said, but it bears a little, some emphasis. Most of our retailers work towards a goal, and there's almost no progress at all until the goal is 100% met. This tool really does get you started right away. And that's some of the stuff that I think is most exciting about it, is that from day one, you get a benefit. You can always do better. You can always tailor it to what you want more and that kind of stuff. But very few things do you get benefit from this quickly. And I think that's why it's so exciting. And there's one other thing to it. And, again, Laura mentioned it, is because it has a visual interface, it does something that our clients aren't used to. Most businesses really deal in very traditional reports. It's a grid, it's data, it's numbers. And you have a certain set of people who are really attuned and skilled in your business to consuming that. You still get that. That doesn't change. But this kind of analysis from top down visual lets you bring other people with different skills, with different capacities to pool their resources to move your business forward. And we'll try to focus a little bit on that today too. And, I think the one big advantage is that this isn't just a replacement for your current reports. It's a way to extend access to your data in a meaningful and beneficial way to users that might not have been appropriate to extend reports to previously.
Yeah, if I may add, that's a very good point, because it really brings it to every level of the organization and all the operations. They have it for themselves and they can use it for their own benefit. But what also I think is kind of here is different is the mindset that you shift away from the what you see, and then you are kind of turning the focus into why it has happened. What is the reasoning behind it? And then once you understand why, then you really can start acting on facts, which is of course the most inspiring part, and that will bring in all the benefits in the business.
Absolutely. And most importantly, the little light bulb here, you'll evolve your business. This is all about evolving your business from manual reports and start acting on those insights, just like Laura so eloquently stated there. All right, so Ray, walk us through we did talk about some of this, but walk us through some of this before we jump into the demo of the actual platform.
Yeah, glad to. I think the biggest difference is really a way of comparing. So some of you have our data mining product. Some of you who are registered have our data warehouse product. And you're sort of familiar with their limitations. The data mining product was...
And I'll add, Ray, sorry, most all on the call, I don't even think have either of those. Most everybody's using the canned reports just from our regular system, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, the thing, even with the canned reports, when you go into the reports designer in Stratus, you've got an inventory report, you've got a sales report, you've got a purchase order report, you've got a customer report. And as you're familiar, those reports are really robust. A lot of our clients get tremendous benefit out of it. But what happens if the data you're seeking crosses those boundaries? That's one of the areas that this solves. It really has the capacity to be able to build a report and cross elements. So sales and inventory and customer data can all meaningfully coexist in a report. Receipt level data can meaningfully exist in a report. Like a salesperson by a store looking for customers who sold over a certain amount might write a thank you note in certain kind of businesses. Might send a personalized email out in others if you don't have our email marketing that does that automatically. There's all kinds of things that you can do to sort of look at your data that in our current reports package, or even in the other ones, it was really difficult to do. And more importantly, it was geared in a way so that instead of it being visual and interactive, it was really geared towards someone who was a sophisticated and well-trained reports consumer. There's one other thing that I think is really meaningful, which is most retailers are operating in a rather lean manner right now. People have their roles, they're all busy, there are not enough hours in the week. And by auto emailing reports to the people you allow to participate in this program, it comes to their company email, they click the link on the dashboard or the report that they get, and then on their phone, they get that focused little bit of data. We don't want them staying on their phone forever. We want them to get the reason that that report came out, learn that piece of data, and then put something into action. And I think that's one of the best things about it. Like, the previous, data warehousing had that, but it didn't have the ability to email. It didn't, it didn't shorten the interval between awareness and action like this does. It really is something that you can push all the way into the store so that, you can have action. Like, Laura's example from before, there's going to be a weather pattern shift and you want people who are in charge of visual merchandising in the stores to take some action. So there's these kind of things that help you broaden the users who would use this. More importantly, it doesn't stress your organization. You don't have to have your IT department participating in this other than to their interest in learning more about the tool. You don't have to have someone, who is a high-level reports consumer building KPIs. They're already there. You can start, like I mentioned earlier, right away, with some of the reports, and then, change them as you go. It's a very intuitive space, and even more intuitive than our reports designer, which I think we get a lot of well-deserved compliments for because it's a great tool. But this takes that one step forward. It really is the next generation, next evolution of how people might see data visualization in their business.
Absolutely. So next, let's talk about the 2 case scenarios, which will lead us right into the demo.
Yeah. We sort of put some thought into how we would best represent what this does for you. And, I wish we had an hour. We did, but we're using it for other things. So we're going to keep this kind of short. We're going to kind of take 3 examples to sort of help you contextualize what you can do with this. You know, a traditional sort of task a buyer or a merchandiser would do. A maybe not so traditional task that you would push down to a store manager because now you're enrolling them in the process. Someone from marketing, you know, at the head office might be doing the roles of looking at top customers and lapsed customers, but, you know, maybe push that to the store manager. If you're a store that has salespeople, maybe you push that to the salespeople. And again, depends on how far you feel comfortable putting this information out there. And of course, you know, I haven't met an owner yet who is not dying for more data, for a way to consume it more quickly, to gain more insights, and then to move on with their day. So that's really the 3 things that we're going to focus on today, because, you know, again, we don't have an unlimited amount of time, and we want to give you some good perspective on the breadth of what we can do.
All right, so I am going to now, let's see here. I'm going to flip it over to you, Ray, and we can jump right into the platform. All righty, you should be able to take it now. Here we go. You see your screen.
And I'm good. I'm glad to hear that. That's wonderful. So I'm just going to make it a little larger so that we can see it in full screen. I'll go back to the URL. But really, the first thing to notice is in getting to this, your main path to get to this will come out of Stratus. In the reporting area, there will be another node, just like your reporting is currently, that says Stratus Analytics. And it has a, you know, it does open in another window. It does make sure that your user rights carry forward, and it opens you with the access that you've been granted. And there's some different levels of access that you can grant someone. So first, you know, this is kind of a busy space. So let me sort of orient us a little bit to this before I jump into the demo. One is this, if you just hover over, you see it's the default dashboard. It's the dashboard I'm on, you know, and you can make any dashboard your default. But this is as good an example as any, you know, it gives me, you know, my sales. In general, every time there is a period, it's represented. There's a color coding for which element is relevant. There is a drill down so you can see a little bit more data if it gives you that arrow in that widget. And there's some drill paths we'll get to. And then in things like this, you know, it's a, you know, sales by day by tax, and it tells you where it's going to drill down here. And again, it gives you the legend that you want with sales with tax and the last 30 days. And as you go over one or the other, it dynamically shifts to let you know what you're in. So, you know, it's a pretty easy thing to look at. You can also see that I'm looking at a region of stores, and I'm looking at a particular product set, kind of a quick group. So, you know, you might have people who are only focused on certain parts of your department structure. So it's a good way for them to take a common shared view and to personalize it and make it theirs. So the hover over is really analytics, build a new. Obviously, that's pretty common, you know, email reports in which you subscribe to, and then settings. I'm going to go into, you know, an area that we built for the client conference because it really does help us with this. So, you know, again, back to the concept of you know, a traditional buyer's view. Now, this is a intentionally simple report. We'll complicate it in a moment. But, you know, a department level view, your turns for the last year, starting today and going back. So it's not, you know, a complicated thing. You run it tomorrow, it'll be, you know, slightly different. Your current week's supply, your average inventory value in retail, you know, in retail dollars, your retail sales for the period, and of course it gives you the sales period here, and your margin. And of course, the ability to do some rounding, some change, some indexing, percent proportion of change, and things like that. And the ability to make this larger or smaller, and we'll get to the large in a moment. The one thing I really like about this is a, you know, you really can get something that a lot of our clients have struggled with, which is the concept of starting at a high level and thinking about what's of interest to you and then drilling down to it. Now, this doesn't have a drill path. You'll see everything else does. We wanted this to be really a very traditional view of this. So a more traditional view of this would be, a buyer doing this, and you'll see I can add a whole bunch of other things, but I'm going to go down to the product data and we go to type. And of course I could add other things. It's a really intuitive screen. I can change my sort bys, all that stuff. And now I've got a little bit more depth to the report. Now, even at this is still a pretty small report by the measure that one of our traditional kind of buyers would do. This is really what they often do. And again, it's certainly open to do. They go down to product name. So it's capable of this mass analysis and of generating large reports all at once and pushing out a tremendous amount of data at one shot. It's able to do that. You can take this data and look at it on screen, and I know a lot of our clients really love Excel, so you have an export to Excel that's pretty straightforward. Just click the link and it drops it into Excel. The first page, kind of the cover page of that tab, will be what the query was, and then the data on the next tab. So it's really easy to do that. But a lot of our clients run this level of report to start with, and we're certainly not trying to move you backwards. If that's what you're most comfortable with, we want you to be able to see that. But if I could just go back a minute, and I'll sort of give you a notion. So I'm just going to go back one, take the product off, and come back in. So here I'm looking at this. These turns are, of course, enviable. You probably never get that, but if it's a descending thing, that maybe this is where I'm going to focus. These things with slow turns. Now, if that's an annualized number and this is purely seasonal product, I wouldn't be so concerned about it. I would just change my period of view. But as I get to the lower turns, I'm really sort of wondering why. Then you filter for maybe a couple of these departments that you're most concerned about with, so just narrow the focus. Then look at it by a product. It's really a way to get rid of the notion that, the only way a buyer can work is, on a large 300-page report at the beginning of the week and work on that report throughout the week. They really can think about their work and interact with the data differently. So that's one notion. Another notion really is, looking directly at slow sellers. So here I'm looking at turnover, and we intentionally took this a little different direction. And the reason this different direction is important is most buyers are not interested too much in graphical data because they've been schooled in being numbers driven. But this really does this. So, here as I hover over something, it shows you the numbers associated with it, the inventory turn, the previous year corresponding, the average inventory value, the previous year corresponding, so in a mix of, bar and line charts. So you really have that. And you also see that, if I find something that I am most interested in, what's of interest to me, then I can just drill in. Now, if I drill in, it already tells you how it's going to drill. So product type. So now we're going into the category. Then I'm going into the actual product data. So the buyer can still get there, but if they choose, they can get there from another method. It is really quick because the other reason people often work with large data sets is they're concerned about the runtime of the report, and this really does resolve that. That's one of the true benefits of having real cloud horsepower behind your reporting. It takes it off your servers, it puts it into an optimized environment, and it makes it ready for use. And I think that's a real good thing. Now, if I went into here and I found the ones that were low, then I might be interested in saying, hey, okay, I understand why this sales are where it is because I don't have good inventory. Here I see, I have lesser set, I have lower turnover, but I have a high inventory, so I'm interested in that. Again, it helps people spot this, even without knowing the business in detail like a buyer or a merchandiser would. It's easy to spot differences in data. So that's kind of the next thing. Switching topics, let's sort of talk about, involving people who look at reports at the store level and maybe even people who don't. So we have a lot of clients who sell a lot of high value goods. And there's a lot of ability to sort of, make a better customer relationship through insights. Now, of course, if you've been on our webinars in the past, and I'm sure some of you have, you've seen what we can do in the email marketing sphere, which is kind of an automated view. But sometimes that personal touch in certain types of circumstances is really what's needed. Now, in this, we just put customer name and email address, but you can certainly put phone number in here. We left, the sales numbers kind of aggregate, but of course, you can put the product in here too. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to narrow this to the store that we're focused on. So, of course, New York would get the data that's appropriate for New York. Maybe the next most important thing that would be important to this is the store manager wants to break this up by salesperson. So again, maybe that's where the person goes in and as a salesperson and moves that person over in front of the customer. So moves it into a position where they can use it. Again, it's pretty intuitive and it works really well. Now we know who Candy needs to call and we know who Anne Marie needs to call. And again, sort the top customers to sort of reach out to. And it could be, an email, it could be a personal email, it could be a phone call or text, whatever is most appropriate. But, it's a way of really personalizing your interactions. And you can put as much data in the hands of Candy or Anne Marie or Yolanda as you feel comfortable. And the store manager can do this themselves if they're less comfortable. But, we're really making this actionable by everybody.
And I just wanted to add, for those of you who might have missed it, is how easy it is just to drag and drop. And Ray just dragged that salesperson up there, and then the report has changed to follow suit. It's just so easy to use.
Yeah. And one other thing, listen, you may have a report for each individual store, so store name isn't necessary. You may have people who want to work in Excel. So again, going back to the filters, dropping this into Excel is better. There's all kinds of ways to use this. But the point is that, it removes a barrier between I want to do something and now I'm doing it. It really does make it easier to change your approach to how you interact with data and who interacts with data. And I think that's what we're trying to do is get our clients on a journey of, and I think you use the term evolution, and it really is appropriate. I think the more interesting one, obviously, thanking your better customers and stuff like that, encouraging their return, obviously, really just great retail practice. But, once a customer has kind of come into your business and has lapsed, that's another opportunity. Sometimes retailers just accept that. But I think this is the opportunity to sort of say, hey, why did they lapse? What am I going to do about that? That kind of stuff. So, I was going to just put in a door filter. So in Baltimore, my lapsed customers are more limited, and I could sort this by any one of these things, the period sales, change, that kind of stuff, the dollar value, and find the appropriate ones that have, have contributed previously to my success, previous comparable period, and current period, not so much. And then reach out again at whatever level befits your business. But sometimes people just need a little nudge to come in. And again, not to pitch too much. Sometimes our email marketing is the solution. Sometimes not. It depends on the kind of store and the kind of effect you're trying to get, the kind of interaction your store staff has with your customers. But again, this is a way to take a direct action on some data that would have a direct correlation to the sales in that store. And to be able to personalize that and say, extend this by saying what they bought recently or the categories they bought, and to make a reasonable point about, we'd really like to get you back in to buy running shoes, for example, if you're, a full line sporting goods store and, someone has bought running shoes from you in the past, we've got some great deals. So there's all kinds of opportunities to sort of act on it. And of course, we do want to go to a traditional dashboard. We're really saving this for an owner, but again, the dashboard can be for the store manager, the dashboard can be for the buyer. I'm really focusing on, one that would look at a lot of different factors as sort of a way to contextualize this. And, I think the thing that's really, interesting about this is that, if an owner gets an alert that, a new dashboard is ready and they get that on their phone, they might go to a full screen like this because they want to see it this way. They might do it on their phone because that's easier and more accessible. And this renders really nicely through a beautiful responsive design on a phone. But again, like the other things, the colored keyed legend is here, so this is month to date, this is budget, and this is previous corresponding period. And of course, percent change from the others. If I wanted to drill in a little bit more, again, that's the one that's there. And if I didn't want to see department, but I really wanted to see it by something else, I could just drill into whatever's appropriate. So again, whatever the data that you're looking for is most important, you can look at that. And of course, if that's the drill path, then it goes further and further. And I think one of the things that's really kind of nice about this is that it, again, takes that barrier between it's kind of hard to build a report. I have to give a more static report because it's always changing, and it encourages ongoing, smaller scale view and ongoing iteration of data and changes. So, it's a little bit different approach than we've done before. And the same would go with margin, that, again, that same kind of identifying, well, it's pretty flat. I think I'm on target there. Maybe I won't drill into that at this point. My margin's pretty well maintained. This might be the place that I spend a little bit more time on. And in this kind of graph, when you look at it, it's got a tremendous amount of content to it, retail sales, budget, discount, and, the budget graph line. But, as I hover over one of these, it actually identifies the parts of the chart. So it helps you to read it. I'm not clicking it yet. Clicking it actually removes it from the grid and leaves something else in. Clicking it again puts it back in. But as I hover over it, it highlights that while putting everything a little bit in the background. And I think that's a really interesting way to do this. Now, again, so retail sales by store, discounts by store, month to date, and of course, you have the ability where it says budget, you have the ability to take things from your planning system or however you're doing it, even if you're doing it in Excel, and you upload it through Excel in the settings area. It'll even give you a template to bring it in to match your existing data in or to hand key it in, and then it sort of loads from there. So it's a pretty easy tool, and there are other imports as well. And in this case, maybe the focus is that the focus is the salesperson. So if I want to drill into this, I'm looking at month to date, and I want to say, hey, Minneapolis is not doing the way I wanted to. What's going on? And then, you see the different salespeople and their contributions and their discounting. And you're sort of saying, there's not a lot of difference between this one and this one, but her sales are a little lower. Maybe you know that her, her hours are a lot lower. Maybe her hours are higher, and you're worried about that. But it gives you the ability to actually act on this data, which is really pretty helpful. And then, from that, I'm drilling down to the things that she sold. So she sold things from several different departments, and you see that she really knocked it dead in some and not so much in the others. And maybe that relates to your understanding. Maybe that doesn't. Maybe that's a point to act on. Then, of course, retail sales is king. We all know that. And again, this is just a simplified view. And it's a drill down of department and type. So here's where I'm, I think I'm, within the period, I'm a little below comparative. I'm a little above comparative. I'm way above comparative. So the only one that I'm really interested in this is this one. And now I want to see what's going on. So now I know that within these categories, these are the ones that, I'm above budget, I'm below budget. I might pick one of these that I'm substantially below budget and say, hey, what's going on? And drill into that to the product level to say, what's not performing? So again, depending on how much time that person wants to take, they can really drill into it pretty effectively without having to take a lot of time to build a new view or to run another report or to do something that would get them insight. And it's really much quicker from noticing something is different or not as you expect, or there's an opportunity, and to be able to learn more about it to the point where you can formulate, how am I going to deal with it? And here's the other thing that I really like. If I hit this Excel file, it's not going to push it out as a report. It's going to bring it out as an Excel file. Again, the filters and the metric and the data in numeric form. So to view it visually, but if I wanted to do some other analysis on that, it brings it out into a usable format. So it's not just a PDF that shows me the chart. It's really the relevant data that then someone who has expertise and interest in doing this can really start to manipulate that. And that works at any level. So even if you're looking at chart-based data to get that visualization and that focus, when you drop that data out, you're getting it into a real actionable and usable format. Because as you know, when you pull product data out and you have product, UPC in it, bringing that data back in might be the formation of a term sale, might be a discount, might be a price change if you don't like the margin. So we give you the ability to really identify the problems, put it into usable format, and then with the really robust set of import tools that are in Stratus, be able to put that into some sort of actionable format. So as we're getting towards the end of this time period, I kind of wanted to do something that, since there was an Apple conference this week, they're famous for saying, oh, and one more thing. So I had to do that. And that's AI. So by that, I mean that we all have heard a lot about AI. If you've heard, Michelle's talk at the user conference, you learned about in our regular reporting, we're going to do a talk to SQL thing so that it builds reports. This does the exact same thing. It's just, it's a little quicker to market. And because it's, of course, a little bit more focused. So just natural language, if I was on a Mac, I would just talk to it. So I want to show the retail sales for New York. Year to date with the comparison to the prior year. And this agent will go out, and that's not a report I have. it's building that view on the fly for you. Now you can save that, and that'll be one of your regular reports. And it just built a really report that acts the exact same way. So now you can drop it out to Excel. Now you can drill down and all that kind of stuff. Or you could do something a little different. Maybe I don't want to analyze this. Maybe I want the AI to analyze it. Why did the sales drop in April? Look at this. April is, you know, why am I off comp so much? I'm actually off comp a lot of places. So let's just clean that up because drip doesn't work.
And
You
I'll
never know what you get as an answer.
While Ray is putting in this next prompt, this just makes it so much easier. And literally anybody in your company who you want to offer this to can just ask it anything in natural language and get the result in seconds.
And when we talked about the technical side of it, actually there is 50 to 100 SQL queries run by Z during this, what it takes, I don't know, 30 seconds. So it is really, and even for a qualified professional controller, this usually would take hours to really solve what is behind the figures. So it's super efficient, very fast.
So copy and paste if this is what you want as the takeaway. You certainly can read it and see what the AI agent has said the other issues are, or you can take one more thing, you know, like it's calling out a particular salesperson. So, you know, that's kind of where I want to go. Show me the sales per sales person in April versus prior year. And that's a way to continue to look at data like this, interact with it, get the insights that you can get from the AI agent, which is only going to become better over time. In this case, it built a new chart. It put the person who was a salesperson here, who has now left the building, no longer selling, may come back at some point. But you see that that was the difference. And, you know, that no one else is quite picking up that, you know, and that was ultimately it. So, you know, I've gotten to the point where I've gotten some insight. I can save these files with the simple save button. If I like that query, you can always change the period of time and stuff like that. But it's another way to explore your data. And it's even more intuitive than, you know, hitting the plus sign and building a dashboard, which we won't have time with. But, you know, I would strongly encourage you to talk to your sales rep and really explore more of the features. Michelle, I'd like to put it back to you.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Ray. So, and I can't stress enough, you know, Ray gave just a quick highlight really of the system. If you want to have a much more detailed demo, a one-on-one demo, just reach out to your rep at Celerant because we can absolutely schedule that for you and show you much more of the system. All right, so we have about 6 minutes left. So we have just a couple more slides to walk through, and I do encourage everybody, there are some questions coming in, which is awesome. So send any questions our way. We are going to take a few minutes at the end here. We're almost there to answer those questions. So I wanted to just share a quick success story, really. This is our client, Chaar. They are a pet supply lifestyle retailer. They've been with us since 2020. They've been with our sister division, Cam Commerce, for way longer than that. They've been with us for a really long time. They have 4 store locations, and AJ, who is the owner of Chaar, the president there, he is an absolute power user of Stratus Analytics. So I won't read his quote. You can read it there, but I can tell you, Ray mentioned earlier about emailing reports. AJ has 5 sets of reports that get emailed to him. He's got a management monthly report, a management daily report, a weekly report, a store weekly report, a store daily report. I mean, the list goes on, but these are all reports and dashboards that he has built out and just has emailed to him on a continuous basis. He is using salesperson performance tracking. He is using the management dashboards and organization analysis. He's looking at 30-day management dashboards and looking at how the stores are performing, how the departments are performing. He really gets into all the different aspects of his business and looks at that holistic view of everything to really make changes, tailor promotions to customer needs, manage the inventory more effectively. He's doing a lot with it. So if you are also interested in speaking with, with AJ or one of our other retailers who have been using Stratus Analytics for a while, we can of course arrange that too, because nothing is more helpful than speaking to another retailer who is putting it into action. So we talked about a lot here. I want to kind of summarize what we learned and then save the last 2 minutes for some questions. So key takeaways, Ray, out of everything we went through, what would you say is your biggest takeaway for the group here today? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I think the biggest takeaway is the fact that the visualization of the data and the ability to quickly query or change the query makes this a more usable tool for more people than any of the products that we've promoted in the past. This is really transformative and opens the door to a much broader set of users who will have much greater success in using it versus the normal, let me print my one monster report at the beginning of the week and work through it.
Laura, biggest takeaway?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of a continuation what Ray just said, that whether you like to crunch numbers in an Excel type of or simple type of chart or in a visual way to drilling in, the most important thing is that you do it in your own way, the way you like. Everything is possible, but just kind of to shift the focus from the what to why and then really act on it.
Yep. And I'll say 2 things. That AI chatbot, I love that. Being able to talk in that natural language and have it query your entire SQL database and bring you back results in seconds is just, for me, that's just awesome. It just makes it so much easier for your team to use. But also those emailed reports, it's not just about getting static reports emailed to you weekly. It will automatically send you reports showing you key trends. The fourth bullet down there, showing you key trends sent right to your email. So as a business owner, you can be anywhere and you can get an email right to your inbox showing you trends and things you need to watch out for. Maybe you can look at it, be aware, and act faster and make changes from anywhere. All right. So we have a couple of questions that came in. I'm going to put this slide up right here. You can learn more, celerant.com/stratus-analytics. We've got a little video on that page you can watch and all sorts of content there just so you can learn more. Reach out to your sales rep at Celerant for those of you who are working with us. We can set you up with a free trial and, we can get that set up for you pretty quickly. This free trial is actually using your own data. So it's really powerful. And like Laura said from the beginning of this call, you can get set up pretty quickly. So we set up your trial pretty quickly. And then if you decide you want to continue, we just make that your live account. All right. So a couple questions came in. First one, Ray, I'll give this one to you. Of course, this is the first question because it's always the first question. How much does this cost?
Well, I would love to tell you exactly, but it's proportionate to the type of business you are. So the pricing is based on how many stores you've got, how many registers you've got contributing to your sales. So, that's a great segue to start to talk with your sales rep and get a real number. I can tell you anecdotally, though, the people I've talked to about the pricing find it really affordable and very reasonable, especially considering what you're getting. So I think you'll like what you find out, when you get your specifics.
Awesome. All right, next one. And this could be either for Ray or Laura, really. Hi there. Is it possible to use this reporting tool to select a parent company and break down and separate the child companies to see how much a certain child company is buying and the number of receipts and invoices?
Yes, and I know who that's from, and I'll contact you directly. The answer is it's one of the category traits that's in the record, and I mentioned this to someone in your company, is able to be changed so that we recognize the relationship between the parent and the child, and we can move both of those over into the analytics, and you can pivot that. So, for everyone involved, let's say you're in law enforcement sales or something like that, or you're selling to fire departments. You have multiple buyers buying under one agency, a really common business for us. There's a little different at school uniforms, but it's the same kind of analysis to say, who's buying from me, who's acting on this, under what umbrella am I getting these sales, and absolutely we can handle it.
Great. Next question is from Joe. So this probably, Ray, is also for you. Are the missing fields from Report Star included here? Are the numbers correct? For instance, numbers of receipts. Numbers of receipt reports incorrectly. Also, we can't report by color. These are basic things. I'm not seeing So this is, and I'll take this. This is actually, so Report Star is our sister company, Cam Commerce. That's our legacy. That's one of our legacy platforms. The Report Star is the reporting platform within it. So this is very different from Report Star. And I think, as you can see, it looks very different. It's much more intuitive. And I think that, Joe, we should get you a one-on-one demo of this, and we can actually show you how a lot of the things that might be lacking in that more legacy platform are available here. So I think a one-on-one walkthrough so that we can kind of show you all that would be helpful.
Yeah, Michelle, can I add one thing? The one thing you can, I didn't do it today. I did go down to adding a product and, UPC, but you can go all the way down to color and size in all of the data reporting about the product. So it can report at the most granular level. And I think that's, one of the parts of the question that I certainly wanted to give you an answer to today.
Awesome. Okay, so Ryan put on the cell phone, is it used through a browser or is it an app?
I can take this.
The browser. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
No worries, you were faster.
And we just talked about this last week. Yes. So go ahead, Laura.
No, Ray got it all. So there is no app for it. So it is a browser, but it works very well. And it is kind of like, how do you say that it is scaling? How do you say that in English? It's
called responsive. It's a responsive design. So everything that you see, the widgets realign, they scale to the size of the phone. So it doesn't care which model you're looking at. It works it works as well on a phone or a larger format phone or an iPad or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Always looking the way it should be and always working, of course, with the touch screen and everything as it should be. So
yeah, it looks really nice and mobile.
Yes.
All right, good. So Ray, this I think we've addressed, but let's hit it one more time. The question is, how long does it take to go live if we end up getting the free trial and then wanting to use this for our business?
Yeah, the reality is once the zero price work order is signed and you're aware of what the go forward price is, if you do want to keep it, we'll get you in queue. The actual setup doesn't take that long. It will, depending on how much data you have, take a little bit of time to do your initial data load. But I would say that, within 3 or 4 days at the most, you'd start to see some benefit pretty quickly, though.
Yeah. All right. We went over, but there's one more question. So if y'all want to just stay with us for this last question, and Ray, this will probably also be for you. We have looked at data mining in the past many years ago. What are the biggest differentiators between this and that?
Yeah, the original data mining was in the precursor to command and carried over. It really only looked at inventory stuff. So the biggest missing stuff it looked at everything related to inventory. So, you bought something, you received something, you transferred something, and you sold something. What it didn't do is it didn't look at the receipt line. So it knew nothing about the salesperson, the discounting, any of that stuff. It didn't have anything to do with that. So this adds all of that, plus all the store traits, plus an extended library of the product library. Like we've got, a data dictionary we can give you, but all the primary customer traits, the ones from the receipts, all the stuff related to the purchase orders, transfers, everything is there. And the most important thing is that data mining was very much a silo. So within that one vertical slice of just inventory, you could get good data, but you couldn't see why that data was affected. And this is really good at telling you what happened that my margin wasn't so good. What happened that my turns aren't where they should be? Why are the turns on this one product significantly faster than expected? Why am I out of stock? You can find answers to all of that through this kind of tool where you really couldn't do it previously. So it's a complete shift.
Can I add just one quick comment on that? Because you mentioned the email reports, and you can also use alerts with it. So like Ray just mentioned, that if there are something is happening and you want to be able to react right away, maybe your margin is dropping, you're running out of stock with your top sellers, you can set alerts into the system, and you will immediately get an email telling you that, look, now your top movers are actually in jeopardy because you are running out of stock. So it keeps you up to date even without going into the analytics and seeing it for yourself.
And that's the trend alerts that we were explaining earlier. So you can set those in your system, and you'll get that email to you, so you can see it as it's happening in the moment and be able to go in and make corrections or make changes and really fix it no matter where you are. Love that. Awesome. Well, my buddy Gordon dropped a comment here. So looks interesting. Have Chris call me. I absolutely will. I will have Chris call you later today. And really, we went 7 minutes over, so everybody stayed on. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I love hosting these sessions. It's just about education. It's just about hopefully, teaching everybody something new, teaching you something new about our platform that's available to you. So thank you for joining. And Laura, Ray, thank you for co-hosting here with me. And we'll see everyone soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.